Hello, everybody. It's Jim Feist in Las Vegas, and today I'm joined by Chip Chirimbus. I remember back in the day, Chipper, the A play, sitting on railroad ties doing your show. It was a lot of fun back then. It's still fun.
Well, Jim, we're sort of like the Virginia Slims. You know, we've come a long way. 40 years ago, you and I were in this. We were struggling to get people even acknowledge that we were out there. And now, legalized gambling has hit. We were 40 years ahead of our time, Jim.
Well, we were, I guess, and that, you know, that's. I'm glad that we started when we did. It was a rocket ship ride for all of us during that period. I've been doing this for what, 50 years or something close to that.
Yeah.
That's
I started in 1978. That would be 40 years for me.
It's unbelievable. It's really incredible to be in something for so long and still keep doing it.
Well, I think it's because of our passion for it. I mean, we love it. Somebody had said to me, well, if I was doing something else, I said, well, I'd still be doing this every day. You know, I'd still be evaluating the numbers and the lines and the matchups, and it's just something I've always done since I was a kid.
Yeah, I was sitting watching the basketball game last night and analyzing what was going on and who's doing what, and all that, and the incredible things and the mistakes and all the things. And you look at, you put that in your mind, and you say, okay, how am I going to approach the next time they play in the situation they'll be in at that time? And it all comes, you think you get up 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, and you start doing the daily stuff with the grind and all that, and the games and the bets and looking for the right lines. And then at night, at 8, 9 o'clock, you're still working. So, I mean, you have to be passionate about it to do that. And we do it every day.
Yep. I mean, we have 2 shifts, and we have the openers and the first impression of the number, and then we post it out, and then we have to evaluate the results later on during that night to get prepared for doing it again the next day. So it is a grind.
It is a grind, and if we weren't passionate, we couldn't do it. It's not possible to do that unless you absolutely love what you're doing. And
Jim, we've seen a lot of people get in this business and, like you say, just go by the wayside because it was just too overwhelming every single day of their lives, and they got out and got out of the industry.
That's absolutely true. Thousands of people. I mean, over that period of time, thousands, literally thousands of people that come and gone. It's not as easy as people think it is. And the hardest part about it is, okay, we all pick winners and we all pick losers. We go on good streaks and bad streaks. That's normal. The biggest problem is when you're on a bad streak, how do you manage yourself, your mind, your emotions, and your money? It's a very difficult thing to do. Very, very few people can do that.
Well, we've said for years that discipline and consistency are the key to survival out here. And I've always found that when I hit that bad streak, to just back off completely and go from, say, 3 plays a day to only 1 play until I get back, until I get righted.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
It's not easy.
You kind of have
to be getting up with your head off the pillow after you lose.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, it's one thing losing for yourself, but losing for your customers, that's 10 times worse, 100 times worse, because you're affecting a lot of people's lives. I hate losing, and I hate losing even more for the people, because you lose their trust. And it's not that you're not working. You're working harder than they even can imagine you're working. But anyway, taking your discipline and the other, whatever else you said there, I want to go back and talk about the consistency, yes. Let's talk about the Warriors a little bit. We saw them win the championship in 15. They won it in 16. They lost it, they lost it in 16. They won it in 17. And basically it's the same crew with the addition of Durant and a couple of other players that are in and out here and there. And, the problem I see is this team is not, and I'm going to go to your word, they're not disciplined and they're not consistent. Anybody that has more turnovers in a game, back to back, than their assists, that is absolutely a critical flaw. This team has just gotten out of. They are just not. They're just not fundamentally sound right now, and it's not that they're not talented. God knows they're the best team. But if you're going to if you're going to give up 18 turnovers in a game, and let's say half of them get converted to 2 points on the other side, half. So that's 9. That's 18 points. Right. That's 18 points for Houston. And it also means that you're not scoring on those plays because you could have been scoring if you didn't turn the ball over. It's a monster difference. They were horrible last night with taking care of the ball. Mental mistakes. Draymond Green was a disaster. But they only lost the game on the road by 4 points against a team that was, balls to the wall. And that just shows you how good they are if they would just... But the question I have for you, and you were a professional athlete, can they turn that around, or did they just go through the whole season just being too cocky and not caring?
Jim, they came into the playoffs on the point you made with most baskets on assist, and now it looks like they look like the Cleveland Cavaliers, where everyone's standing around and one guy's trying to take a jump shot, and Curry's trying to create a one-on-one or Durant a one-on-one. I think part of the fact that the reason their shooting percentage isn't as good is they aren't making that extra pass. That they used to move the ball around. They're not moving the ball around like they have in the past, and that's what I see. I mean, and I think it's a big difference. And they said on Igalia, Bienal, that he was a key factor. Maybe he is, but ball is not moving the way it has in the previous Warriors teams.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, Houston was one of the worst teams in the league for the number of passes before a field goal, but the Warriors were the best, or damn near the best. So they've definitely. Iguodala is not only a great defender, he also provides offense, and he is part of the flow of their offense, and their offense flows better with the passes and finding the open guy, driving and kicking out, et cetera, with him on the floor. However, he also brings stability to this team. And I see these guys all operating basically individually now. And this is not the same. This is not the same club we saw the past 3 years with this team. They're not the same.
They certainly don't look the same. As it was previously.
Yeah, that's right. You wanted to talk a little bit about the NFL and the anthem thing, and I know you had some very strong opinions about it.
Well, my comment here is that I don't really think the NFL players understand who they are, and what I mean by that is, if you and I are doing a television show, we're hosting ABC News every night, and one of us wears an offensive T-shirt every night, our ratings start to go down. People start to turn their backs on us. What's the network going to do? They're either going to fire us or make us take off that offensive apparel that we had on. The NFL doesn't have the option to fire those guys because their ratings are going down. Viewership is going down. And the only way I think the player could understand that it's not their podium, that it's the owner's podium, because they own the team, the only way the players can understand is the repercussions of smaller salaries. Because we're not getting the same, their salaries are being paid by television more than people in attendance. And the media is their advertising rates are going down and dropping. They had to rebate a lot of money last year. They had to rebate money the year before. And if this trend continues, how can the player get his $30 million every year? When you start telling the player, well, instead of 12, I'm sorry, we can only give you 3 because the networks, we're not getting the advertising dollars that we previously had, maybe they'll understand. I think they were taking this thing, making it a political point about patriotism as opposed to understanding exactly that this is business and this has to do with the fact that you're hurting my product.
Excellent point. and you feel it in the pocketbook, and then you start to react. You know, this whole protest thing started by Colin Kaepernick, was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember it started because he didn't feel black people were being treated properly or fairly by police.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did it go from there, doing that, have that protest then turned into a patriotism thing? Because I don't think it was ever meant to be
I
that.
think it has to do with the media. I think it has to do, they're running a storyline because I believe that ESPN is far left, and they're trying to take and exploit every political opportunity they can. ESPN has lost millions and millions of viewers in most recent years because of their political stance on air. I turn on to watch sports. I don't care about what your opinion is. I don't care if you like broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Let me watch the game. And I'm being force-fed this stuff. And I think there's a backlash and there's a resentment. And I think that ESPN is really strongly behind this.
Well, they're basically shooting themselves in the head, not even in the foot. They're just killing themselves.
Well, I don't think I don't think they care about that as much as they care about getting their point across. Yeah, I think the NFL is going to take a hit for a while because this is a pretty negative thing, and I think they're making it into a patriotic thing, and it hasn't been, and I also think that made it into a racial thing, which it never really was, because there were white players as well as black players boycotting and sitting down and protesting. But it's not the player's right to do that. This is someone else's forum. You can do that on your own time. I understand what the owners are doing. They're trying to protect the shield, and the shield we know is exploitive. I mean, think of the doctor's reports on concussions that they concocted for all those years, Jim. So it isn't like I'm saying that they're 400% in the right here, but I understand what they're trying to do, and I don't think the players understand at all.
You know, it's a shame. It's a shame, and you're 100% right. They are employees of these teams owned by very wealthy people and who paid big franchise fees and paid a lot of money to buy these teams. They're employees, and they should not be doing what they're doing.
Exactly.
Even when Colin Kaepernick started this, he was wrong in using that forum to do it. Now, you know, in this whole thing, these guys need to wake up, or they're going to be bagging groceries, you know, instead of carrying footballs.
And the other Kaepernick thing about him yelling collusion, how can he possibly have a case of collusion when in his last contract, he turned down the player $18 million option? He had the option, not the club, and he turned it out to be a free agent. And I don't keep hearing that, so I don't know how he's going to possibly win the collusion when he had a contract.
That's, you know, when you get into a courtroom situation, I never know what's going to come out of there. So
yeah, no, that's what
I can understand your point, but I would never guarantee what's going to come out of a courtroom with a jury or a judge. It can go a lot of different ways, and I'm sure whatever happens, it's going to be appealed for the next 10 years anyway. You know, so I wanted to ask you about we dropped the ban on gambling. Now sports gambling is now going to be legal in the states that choose to make it legal.
Right.
But it's, you know, now there's not a ban on it at least. But the one thing that's come out of this, the leagues fought this for a long time, and they spent a lot of money fighting it. And now they lost, and now they're asking for an integrity fee. Well, I don't know who the hell ever came up with the word integrity fee in the first place. And secondly, after you lose a battle, how do you go back and say, "Oh, I want a piece of the action"? How the hell do you do that?
Well, they're not going to get a piece of anything in my mind. And somebody said, well, they went from like the 1% to down to 0.25%. And I would just look and laugh at them and say, what do you care? I mean, Jim, we said this before. I don't know if the guy that's making his action, say in Massachusetts or Connecticut, with his illegal or his offshore account is going to be willing to let the state monitor his actions. I don't know if they're going to want to let it be public like that. I don't think there's going to be that change. I think that they may get the guy that was never involved inclined to get to have a bookie and that goes to the bar and watch the game and want to might bet a few dollars to watch it. But I don't see player. A guy like you or me, we came out and we knew we wanted to eat talent and we found a way to do it. Those people are already making their action. I don't see them switching over to it where they let the state monitor their action, where they have to put the money up front.
Absolutely true. This is going to make more players, but they're probably going to be smaller players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At least for a couple of years, and it's going to take 3 to 5 years to roll this product out across the country, which will happen. But in the meantime, the local bookie and the offshores are going to benefit. They are the winners here. Now, Granted, the venues like Monmouth and places like that are going to also benefit. And there's one other thing I want to bring up. A few years ago, and I'm a poker player. I play online and I play, live in the casinos in the World Series of Poker. But I'm by no stretch of the imagination am I a professional, but I do play. Now, poker was very popular in this country until Black Friday a few years ago. I think it was like 7 years ago, I think. But then it got abolished. It's hard to play online now. Now, this law has now been overturned, and I feel that online poker is going to come back in a very large way. How do you feel about that?
I hadn't thought about it, considered it. Would they have to go through other panels or other legislation to allow online poker, say, like they're going to allow online sports gambling in Connecticut? Could Connecticut now do poker as well?
I believe
would they have to go through a home rule?
I believe your gambling is gambling. I know it was a sports gambling bill, but it's going to be, I think it's going to, and Mark Cuban was the guy that brought this up, and I was reading his stuff, and I hadn't thought about it till I read what he said. And it's going to be very difficult for the courts to deny poker when they're now saying that sports betting is now legal. Well,
the one thing I don't think Cuban, who I really love because how progressive he is, and you may not agree with everything he says, but he's a fresh thinker. He's always moving on.
Absolutely.
He said that there would be people there would be inline betting or gaming, and I don't think. And he's talking about whether the next pitch is going to be a ball or a strike, or whether he's going to strike out or hit. And I just don't think that the system would be able to do that type of impromptu wagering.
Well, maybe.
Say, I bet this.
Maybe today's technology that would be correct, but if you go down the road 5 to 10 years, who knows what kind of technology will be out there?
Yeah, right. They might be doing it off their phone, but I was just thinking of wouldn't they have to readjust the betting number on after every batter and the odds for every guy pop strikeout? He was talking about that type of stuff. And something that you and I would go to a game and I say, I bet he's throwing a curveball this kid. And he's saying that kind of stuff which people do is going to be bet on, and I don't see that happening. At least not like you said, maybe in 10 years. Who knows?
I agree with you. It's not gonna happen anytime soon. I'm sorry, the background noise here has not gotten worse.
Yeah.
But Chipper, anything else before we cut off, because we're running at the 20-minute level now?
Well, I have one final comment. When I was a kid and 12 years old, my two heroes were Willie Mays and Yuri Gagarin. And nowadays, we've got people going to Mars, and this guy did one orbit in 108 minutes for the Russians. And the United States was devastated that the Russians had put a man in space. Sorry, I was just thinking about
that. That one totally went off the rails. You caught me, really blindsided me with that one. I love
you
it.
Remember Yuri Gagarin? You remember that happening?
Heck yes. How could I forget? I was definitely remember that. What year was
Yeah.
that?
1961.
All right, so that was the year I registered for the draft. Yeah,
Holy nuts.
because back in
Yeah.
those days you had to do that.
Well, we were in the midst of the Cold War then, and people were afraid. So we're afraid. Oh, and by the way, when we finish with this, I want to tell you about. So don't hang up.
Okay. Well, oh, you want me to do that offline?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on one second. And thanks everybody for
All right,
listening in. Chipper and I had a lot of fun bringing this to you, and I hope you enjoy listening to it.